I've been really appreciating this theme this month so much. This is a core practice in any spiritual tradition, but I've been appreciating particularly the flow of our themes. I often find this, but so much so this time, because we are flowing from letting go this month to next month, grace. And the reason I love that so much is because it maps right on with one of my favorite definitions of the work of church, of the spiritual work we each have, of the work I have in ministry. And it comes from Reverend Dr. John Wolfe, our minister emeritus. And that is that work is the work of removing the barriers to grace, of letting go of the obstacles to grace. Grace, which he defines as the abundant, unearned goodness that is available to us all the time, insofar as we have the capacity to receive it. And so we have this whole month to focus on letting go of our barriers to the unearned goodness of life that is always flowing our way. It won't just be flowing our way in May, but boy will we be ready for grace come May with all the letting go work we're doing now. Here we have the opportunity this month to identify those places that we're holding on, those obstacles to the goodness of life in our life, those bad habits maybe, or those unhealthy relationships maybe, or those over-commitments, that perfectionism, that grudge, that festering wound, a financial investment that's straining you, a soul-sucking job. We have the opportunity to let go of these things and receive grace. But it's not quite that easy, is it? I would that it was just, okay, this is the month, we do it every year, or every 3 years, identify those barriers, yep, that's key, that's in my way, and just let them go. Now, of course, what we actually find when we try to do this work is what we have to let go of is not actually any one of these individual barriers so much as our gripping itself. What we have to let go of is the fear that's motivating our grip, a deep-rooted fear, and the even maybe more deeply rooted beliefs, perceptions, thought patterns that are feeding those fears. We have to find those too, and then we have to let go of those patterns, those beliefs that say to us, if I let go, actually what will happen is not grace, but I'll lose what I need. I'll lose everything. I'll get hurt really badly. I'm reminded, thinking of this theme, of this fun story. You probably heard maybe a version of it at some point about this guy who's sightseeing at the Grand Canyon. Call him Clifford, who's walking along the cliffs of the Grand Canyon, right? And, he's just captivated, and he gets kind of a little bit close to the edge, and then a little bit of the ground shifts beneath him, and he stumbles, and the next thing you know, poof, he's fallen head over heels, picking up velocity, thousands of feet, trying to grab on in every direction, can't find anything, and then somehow halfway down by some miracle, he grabs onto a branch, and by some miracle it does not break, and he catches himself midway down. And he looks beneath, and he sees the huge, spiky boulders that means certain demise. And he looks above, and he sees sheer rock face, no footholds, no place to climb at all. And he tries to call out in the wind, but only for a moment, because he realizes very quickly the wind is so strong, it's breaking up his voice. There's no person for miles. There's no way he's going to be heard. And he's hanging there by one arm, and he's losing his grip, and he's in desperation. And finally, and he is not a particularly religious person, but finally, out of last resort, he calls to the heavens, God, if you're there, please help me now. Okay, says God. And he's like, whoa! whoa, this is amazing. He feels this incredible relief coming over his whole body. He's relaxing. He's like, oh, it's going to be all right. God says, just let go. Is there anybody else up there I could talk to, maybe? Because that's how it feels sometimes, right? Like we feel that way, like we're holding on for our dear life. And when it feels like that to us, the summons, the call, the guidance, the invitation to let go, maybe let go, let God, from a minister or from a well-meaning friend or from a spiritual self-help book, it can seem actually pretty incongruous with our reality sometimes, can it? Maybe even to the point of being ludicrous. Don't you see those sharp, pointy boulders down there? What do you mean, let go? And yet this spiritual summons, this wisdom, this call to let go appears time and time again, and it would seem to imply that maybe our perception of the danger isn't entirely reliable. That maybe when we're holding on for dear life, there's something we can't quite see, that our fears are not actually as well founded as we would believe, that if we let go, our experience would be transformed in a way we can't even understand now. And to put it kind of literally for Cliff, that if he were to only let go, that he would actually land on a ledge, that he was too focused on the boulders way down beneath him to see and know was there. That seems to be the wisdom. Why else would they ask us to let go when it's so clearly such a perilous move? I've been reflecting on this call, this summons to let go in relationship to the Christian scriptures. Had to go back a little bit further in our tradition to find some good letting go material, follow the stream, because the truth is Unitarians don't generally like to talk too much about letting go completely and total surrender. We paid a little bit more attention to the perils of religious, mindless surrendering, and there are real perils, but I don't think that gives us some kind of get out of jail free card on this spiritual move of letting go. Obviously we've given a whole month to it, but thinking about it from the vantage point of this Christian scripture we heard today, where this young rich man, he's known as, comes to Jesus and says, what do I got to do? What do I got to do to inherit eternal life? Tell me. And right there I can already identify with him. Can you identify with that question of like, what is it? What do I have to do or not do? Or like, what is the recipe here for me to finally feel okay? For me to finally be good? For me to finally have some peace? Jesus, what is it? I've got this guru here, so lay it on me. And Jesus recognizes that impulse to try and figure it out, to earn it, figure out how you can earn it, to get what he's got to do. And he says, okay, yeah, well, you probably know the commandments, right? Do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, and don't do that, and don't do that, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm good with all that. I've been following those rules. I've been doing it right. Now Jesus is really onto him. It's like, oh, okay, I got you. I know who you are. You've got this all under control, right? You just need the one missing ingredient, huh? Well, if you really want the good stuff, here it is. Now let go. Now let go of everything. Let go of all of your control. Give away all of your possessions, not just the bad stuff. Presumably, if you're following the commandments, that's taken care of that. So now just let go of everything. Let go of your earthly means of self-control itself and just trust. And then you will be able to receive the goodness. And he can't receive that news. He's got it from the mouth of at least a great guru. This is what you got to do, and instead he has to go away bereaved that he won't get to inherit the kingdom of God, that he won't get to experience that because he's so afraid of giving away his control, his possession of life. And it makes me wonder, where is that in me? Where is the abundant grace and goodness, the kingdom of heaven on earth, as I read it, available to me, available to you, right now, right here and now? But there's something, maybe it's material possessions. Jesus gives a lot of attention to material possessions, so there's something to that. But maybe even more likely it's some kind of way that you're holding on in your life to your story of life. That's what it is for me. It's my story. That's my possession. This is how my life is going to go. This is going to happen, and this is not going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to be good. And then when life instead, happens like this, I'm too busy resisting, holding on to my expectations. I can't receive the goodness of how life is actually turning out. Are there places that you're holding on in that way? Maybe identities you're holding on to, relationships you're holding on to, expectations, means of control. Do you feel yourself holding on? Might that be keeping you from actually receiving the goodness of heaven on earth right here, right now? Imagine no possessions. Can you do that? John Lennon says it's easy if you try. He also says, you may say I'm a dreamer, and most of us do. Yeah, like a world with no possessions, keep on dreaming. And we probably will not see that day of a world with no possessions, but these summons to let go, whether they come from the Bible, or they come from the Buddha, or they come from a beetle, they are seeming to say, this dream can actually be experienced in your life, in your heart. It can be touched upon. You can experience this freedom. This is not something just for a dream way off that's to be sung about or reserved for scriptures that will never come to fruition. But of course, this summons does appear in a lot of traditions, and as I've been trying to look for different sources to draw from, I was reminded of one story I love in the Buddhist tradition that gives me not just inspiration to do this work, but some encouragement that it's actually possible. This is a story about a monk who is revered as a saint in the Buddhist tradition, who had no possessions except for a beautiful, unique, golden, jewel-encrusted begging bowl. That's a little incongruous, right? But, here's the deal. It was given to him by the king, who is one of his teachers, and so he received the gift and has been using this golden begging bowl. And so he sits down for sleep one night to retire, and he likes to go to this abandoned monastery, and it's all quiet there, and then he notices that he's not alone, that someone has followed him, and that someone is very likely a would-be thief after his golden begging bowl. And indeed, the thief is behind a tree hiding, and he says to him, "Hey, come out. Are you by any chance looking for this? Because if this is what you need, then why don't you go ahead and take it, and then you can get on your way, and then probably I can have a good night's sleep without you disturbing me later on. How's that sound?" So the thief is of course, a little disarmed by this, but, thinks this is good fortune, so grabs that begging bowl and runs off before this monk can wise up and change his mind, only to come back the next day with the begging bowl to return and with a request, saying, I've realized, actually, even though I have never had such earthly riches, when I left last night, I'd never felt so poor in all my life. I realized I don't want this bowl. What I want is what allowed you to give it to me. What I want is for you to teach me of the riches of your heart that made letting go of this costly bowl so easy for you. What I actually love most about this story is, while of course on my own journey I'm probably a good bit closer to the thief in the story, I can also identify with what he's seeing in that monk's heart. I can identify with that experience of the heart that makes it sometimes very easy for me to let go of things that on other times I cling to. That experience of the natural goodness of this life, that experience of loving connection, that experience of the incredible beauty of this world, that experience of feeling just at peace, that feeling that you know each of you have also touched in your life, that makes it not such a big deal to, I will give you, $10 to the homeless guy, or I'll give you my time without worry about what you should be doing with your time, or other generous acts, or that allows you to set your work aside, your project aside, maybe go home even a little early and just trust instead of just must. Or even that feeling, that experience of the goodness of life you felt in your heart that's given you faith. Yes, I can feel this goodness of life again, even without that loved one beside me. And the reason it encourages me so much is it reminds me that actually a good part of this work of letting go is connecting to that goodness that I already have. Remembering where it is that I experienced that and kind of coming from the outside in and connecting with that richness of the heart. And it's possible for all of us. Another story that was called to mind as I was reflecting on this letting go practice. I've seen it sourced a few different ways as a folktale, maybe an Italian folktale, maybe an African folktale, so I actually don't really know where it comes from originally, but it's about this son who's told that the only way to save his ailing father is to find the shirt of a truly happy man. That if he can find the shirt of a truly happy man and place it upon his father, that his terminal illness will pass. And so, of course, the son goes out into the town, starts knocking on doors everywhere, talking to everyone he can, and everyone he talks to, has got at least some grievance, or, maybe they're outright depressed. They're like, happy? No. What, are you kidding? No, not at all. And so he has to keep on going. He goes to the next town and the next town, and then finally, can't find anyone. He goes out just into the desert. Maybe some nomad or something I'll find. And even the people he encounters in the desert, they've got their grievances. And he's about to give up finally one evening when he hears this voice coming from within a cave, just singing happily, merrily, la la la, what a wonderful day I've had, actually singing that he's truly happy, a truly happy man. And he's like, are you kidding me? This guy's putting this on a silver platter? I can't believe this after all this time. So he creeps into the cage as the man is settling down for his night sleep. And just as he approaches him and gets his hands to the torso to grab that happy man's shirt, what does he feel? No shirt. No shirt on the truly happy man. I wanted to share that story mostly by way of a segue of a way that I experienced that kind of literal letting go, freedom of losing your shirt. I had the opportunity to star in a musical version of something probably most of you all, if you know it at all, know as a movie, The Full Monty. Yeah, some recognition out there. Yeah, so I was in the Broadway musical, The Full Monty, but not on Broadway, admittedly. This was in a summer stock theater in New Hampshire, so, the pressure wasn't on quite as much. Nevertheless, but this story, it was letting go for me too, but the story of these men who, in the movie they're in Britain, but in the musical they're in Buffalo, New York, and the plant shut down. They've been let go, and they feel like they're losing everything. They're losing their funds, they're losing their control, they're losing their pride, they're losing their relationships with their loved ones, and it's all just going to you know where. And somehow this idea emerges for them to try and raise funds by doing like the Chippendales do and taking it off, you know? And, you know, if people will pay to see strangers, well, like how much would they pay to see the local townies, right? So, this motley crew of assorted guys and assorted body types decides to go after this. And of course, there's all kinds of resistance on the way, especially once the leader, Jerry, says, oh yeah, and we're going the full Monty. We're going all the way. We're taking it all off. And, but in the end, what they discover is that by going with the flow of all this letting go, and actually letting go of their inhibition, and letting go of their shame, and letting go of their worry about what people will think of them, they find this sort of, I guess, Garden of Eden-like freedom anew, and find a joy within, find a strength within, find love, new love in their relationships. And they sing at the end, you know, the song in the movie is "You Can Leave Your Hat On," which is the last thing to go. And same choreography in the musical, but we sang this song, "Let It Go, let it go, let it go, loosen up now, let it go, let it go, can't get up my belt, so let it go, it's all right." Otherwise, you know, oh well, too bad I could do the robe at least, I guess. And we took it off one piece at a time. And of course, for me, you know, all of us, that like we had the meta journey with the characters. Like, we're doing what? There was this blinding flash of light that came at the audience, so they, you know, right at the key moment. But still, you know, parents and family and friends out there. But I touched that freedom, you know, of. I think there's something in all of us of that naked child running around in the sprinklers, just laughing, just free. No shirt, no shoes, no pants, no diaper, no problems, you know? I share these stories, and you know what? I can find not just encouragement in them, I find real roadmaps almost to what we all are called to do on this journey of letting go, the roadmap of identifying those barriers where we're holding on, and the way Jesus helped the young man identify what his hang-up was, what he was holding on to, and then getting behind that grip and seeing what is it that's motivating that fear. What are the thoughts, the beliefs that we're having, and checking them. Are these beliefs I have really true? Are they really true, or might there be a ledge beneath me? And then this wonderful, wonderful outside-in guidance to connect with the riches of your heart. That when you feel like letting go is hard, to connect instead with where you know that you feel the things, the love that's free, the love that's on offer all the time. And to maybe even realize that you can experience that love that's actually already in your heart, which is what you're after, by giving away the very thing that you're gripping. You can turn it on its head. And then this idea of actually letting go of all of the trappings of life, like it's just one big striptease. Like life is this practice. You don't have to go the full Monty all at once, but eventually we all do go the full Monty. We let go of it all, and life is gonna ask us to let go, so maybe to go with the flow and to even enjoy it a little bit. If we're loosening that grip, we could do it a little kind of sexy, you know, like one finger at a time, but there's joy, there's freedom to be found. But even though I find this inspiration and even some guidance in this, I do also want to keep it real before I close with you this morning, because I think, you know, the truth is, if letting go in this way was like a Broadway musical, quick trip to happiness, the kingdom of heaven, you know, abundant goodness and grace, a few more of us would probably have figured this out by now, right? You know, like we would be embracing this practice a little bit more wholeheartedly. Because the truth is that a lot of what we fear, a lot of the pain that keeps us gripping is misperception, is rooted in wrong belief, a lot of it. The truth is also, a lot of it isn't. A lot of the pain that we fear is very real pain. It's unescapable pain. Letting go isn't, in this way, just the domain of would-be spiritual athletes on their way to nirvana. It's the work of every day. It's what we each and all have to do, and it is painful, often. For even when we manage to live with open hands in the world, our hearts, if they're alive and beating, and therefore loving, our hearts have a powerful grip. Our hearts have a powerful grip on this life, the gifts of this life, the purposeful work we're called to in this life, and most of all, a powerful grip on one another, right? And that's a good thing. That's the love that binds us together. So living in a world as lovers with these cords that bind us popping up everywhere, when the inevitable shifting happens, the shifting of even the ground beneath us, the changes, the losses of life come, those cords and bindings crack and break, and yes, so do our hearts. Letting go is heartbreaking work. Make no mistake. David White, an incredible poet, writes that we use the word heartbreak as if it only occurs when things have gone terribly wrong, unrequited love, shattered dreams, a child lost before their time. Heartbreak we treat as if it's something that we can avoid, a chasm to be carefully looked for and then walked around. We want to place our feet where we can keep safe from the losses in life that all other human beings, without exception, have experienced since the beginning of time. But heartbreak, he says, may be the very essence of being human, of being on the journey from here to there, and of coming to care deeply for what we find along the way. There may be no path we can take within life that will allow us to escape without having that imaginative organ we call the heart broken by what it holds and then has to let go. And heartbreak, David White adds, is just as much an essence, an emblem of care as the spiritual athlete's quick and sometimes a bit abstract ability to let go. To live in this world, we have to do three things, Mary Oliver says. To love what is mortal, to hold it against our bones, knowing our own life depends on it. And when the time comes, to let it go. To let it go. Letting go is, curiously, since that's the way life is, the only way to truly embrace the gift of life. Letting go with all of its heartbreak is the only way to, with that heartbreak, experience the abundant goodness and sweetness and love and grace that would join us in the heartbreaking work of living and loving and letting go. If you would, one more time, just clench those fists. Clench those fists. And now greet your neighbor with your clenched fists. Like, give him a handshake or a hug. Right? No, keep those clenched fists, right? Does that feel satisfying? All right, open the hands and greet your neighbor. Give him a handshake or a hug, all right? With clenched fists, we cannot receive, we cannot share, we cannot give, we cannot share the gift of life. Letting go is the only way. So let it go, let it go. Loosen up now, let it go. Let it go, let it go. It will be all right.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVE-BB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVE-BB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.